So what's important to understand about this is that if you're somebody who is without a criminal record whatsoever, and then you discover some sort of paranormal subject on YouTube regarding non-humans, and you do your own study and find out it's true, and upload it, and then you become a targeted individual of our own government, and it has to be the government because this couldn't all go on with law enforcement vehicles and everything else, and me publishing on YouTube and everything. And I'm sure police have seen it, and them and the government wouldn't come in on my behalf and talk with me about it and put a stop to whoever was doing it. So the fact is that if that's going on, how are we living in a free country? How are we free? How are Americans free with freedom of speech, especially on something where there was nothing else to it but the subject of non-humans? And so that's why I say is that, you look at this and say, well, why are you becoming a target of psychological warfare like they use against drug dealers, with helicopters buzzing overhead and squad cars following you and unmarked big black SUVs following you and all kinds of weird stuff, and it's happening in the middle of the night and waking you up, and police at your door for some bogus reason, and you can tell they were lying about why they were there. I mean, why are we getting all that if for a movie that was about nothing but non-humans, should there be a situation of non-humans involved? That's what I'm saying about this. That the reaction to this psychological warfare program, obviously carried out against me for this upload to YouTube, has to be non-humans that are behind it. Because otherwise, if it was just humans behind this, if it was just humans doing this, how could that happen? I mean, why would they make this whole expensive program to try to intimidate me away from uploading movies about non-humans if there weren't any non-humans involved? So that's really the point of common sense about this, is that, I mean, first of all, I can tell you for sure, if you're thinking, as I could fully understand, that I've just been, too bored, too much time on my hands or something, and I just made up some sort of interesting, thing and then I become paranoid, and then I thought every helicopter that flies by, oh boy, it's gotta be a, they're stalking me, Well, I can tell you absolutely for sure, no doubt about it, no bullshit, no loss of control of my mind or reality or cognizance or being able to add up things or think about things critically, like, could it be, could it not be? There is no chance that it didn't happen, and continues to happen now 5 years later, okay? 5 years it's continued up. And I knew that they would continue to do this. Their goal is to drive me nuts, to drive me to suicide, okay? See the Corbett report on YouTube. He's got a cool section called Requiem of the Suicided. And because he's on to something, he knows that people have been eliminated and their deaths have been faked, or they say it's a suicide, but it's really not. They murdered them. But I think a lot of these people do commit suicide because what they do is they drive them crazy. Because there's some people that they can't kill because why? Because it's an under control situation. They have rules and laws that they have to go by that are not the rules and laws that we know about. Because they can, I believe, kill some people, but they don't know. For instance, in my case, I believe that they sent the actor Paul Walker to kill me. He and his serpent friend, to come and have a little snack on Richard Bruce, because they eat people, okay? That's the thing. So when my enemies, Psalm 27:2, when my enemies and my foes came to eat at my flesh, they stumbled and fell, crashing into the only gas line in the area in their $500,000 Porsche and burning alive. And at that point, they knew that I was somebody that they can't eliminate with death, because they wanted to. Let me tell you something, friends. There is no doubt that with the amount of energy spent, even if they're just holograms, even if because I know some of the cars probably can't be holograms, and even if a lot of the aircraft, or even possibly all of them, because unless you touch it, you don't know. See the John Lear videos that they have holograms, and you absolutely cannot tell. And the sound, the vibration in your chest, and everything, you can't tell the difference. But my pretty much common sense would tell you that a lot of them are real. Some of them I do actually positively believe are holograms, just because of the timing. It would be hard to get an aircraft out right when I came to my door, because that was happening for a lot. That dropped off after a while, but that was happening quite a bit. And so I got that on video in my gang stalking reports, that they would have it come right up the door. And they also have come on certain types of thoughts. They'll buzz you. And this is a lot of people who are TIs have noticed this, if they get air stalking as part of their harassment. And a lot of people who watch my channel say that they just started watching my channel, all of a sudden they notice it. Now a lot of this could be pareidolia, or paranoia, like you see it from somebody else, and then they kind of start to think every aircraft is coming against them. It's like maybe that may be like a spreading of paranoia or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, most people really are not going to continue to see stuff unless they really in fact are TIs. But I think these are holograms that they use to try to intimidate people away from watching my channel. And unfortunately, it may be the fact of the matter, I knew that one of the casualties of doing what I'm doing is that other people may have become TIs once they realize the truth, and or they start watching my channel and they start realizing that we're living in a false reality, and this whole thing is fake, and that it's non-humans that are running the show. But the main thing is, friends, do not be fooled by, I'm not saying that there aren't extraterrestrials. I'm not saying that there aren't other planets or any other stupid things that many Christians, in fact, maybe even most Christians, are saying. But the whole thing, really, the bottom line to it is, what are you going to do about your soul? Where is it going to go? Okay, because this is one thing I am sure about, is that this planet is a sphere of judgment, whatever else it might be. Okay, maybe it's an alien experiment. I think it is. I think there are extraterrestrials here, and I think they are running scientific experiments. I think those talks about like 20 different species or 20 different human types are being tested, blah blah blah, and certain aliens may have been fighting over it, blah blah. See, God isn't saying in His Word that all this isn't taking place. The reason He doesn't include it in His words is because this isn't relevant to the situation of those who want to come to God, who want to live and not die, that is, have eternal life and be friends with Him. Now, many of these souls, they're tares, as we know, so they're not interested in that. They don't hear that voice. They're not interested in that, and they go on to death. But if you are interested in it, this is the opportunity. This is the refreshing. This is the chance to show God that you are going to, in fact, listen to what He has to say, do what He wants you to do, and so that you can conform yourself into things that are necessary for life. Copter approaching. Sounds like a buzz, sounds like a buzz. Buzz in progress, buzz in progress. Here we go, black and white LAPD looks like. Maybe silver and blue, can't tell. Direct overhead. Okay, so this guy here intersects me fully as I come into the mall. Helicopter approaching. Looks like one of those unmarked black and white types. Nope, LAPD. Circling around. And coming over. Can you possibly account it into your belief system?
If I start telling you people here in the middle of Trafalgar Square that I have a very reliable victim who is a witness on the island of Jersey who told me in detail how the Queen Mother used to play about with her. Yes, I can see you. And this is what you're all here for. You're all here for the crown. You're all here, all you tourists, you're all here to say, what a wonderful country, we've got a wonderful queen. Well, what you don't know is that the queen owns the island of Jersey. The UK does not own the island of Jersey, it is the queen. Our queen owns the island of Jersey. It has a population of just 90,000, 9-0. Yet it has a financial industry worth £250 billion per year. She has not taken any, and I can see one of the wardens looking at me, because what I am doing here is committing treason. Now, it was up to 1998 that the only law in this country, not killing children, raping children, torturing children, no death penalty for that. But in 1998, we still had a death penalty in this country for treason. Now, treason means something as simple as this: talking bad against the royal family. Well, if we've got any police officers here, I'm accusing the Queen Mother of paedophilia. And I am accusing her daughter of covering it up on her island of Jersey. And so, this is a dirty country. This country is filthy because of our Queen and her mother and Mr. Lord Mountbatten, who, when he was killed, had 3 children on his boat with him. That's how high it goes. And now, another little bit of sinister story for you. The Pope, the age of sexual consent in the Pope's Vatican City up to 1 year ago, 2009, was just 12. 12! You can take a kid at 12 years of age in the Vatican City. Then, when our film, Sun, Sea and Satan was released, they put it up last year to 14. You have 800 priests, clergymen, that live in the Vatican City. Nobody else lives there or stays there. They are celibate. Now, celibacy means you don't have sex. Why do they need an age of consent if they don't have sex? And I'm very angry.
Buzz in progress, buzz in progress. Slow flyover. Your tax money. Black and white LAPD. Got a buzz in progress, a buzz in progress. Even though it is raining quite a bit. Here it comes. I was thinking about David Icke becoming a Christian. This is the buzz, this is the buzz. Your taxes for psychological warfare harassment for uploading reptilian shapeshifter movies to YouTube. Let's see what we got here. ABC 7. Looks like. Helicopter approaching.
But the most prominent paedophile associated with the Savile ring was a man called Edward Heath, who you may recall was Prime Minister and took us into the EEC. Heath was into little boys and Savile was supplying them. A number of these boys were taken out of the Haute de Garenne home in Jersey. Savile was taking children from a children's home with the support of German assets in Jersey. What was happening was that children's homes in the Channel Islands, particularly Haute de Garenne in Jersey, children were being taken from these homes, boys in the case of Edward Heath, as he was gay, and a paedophile, were being taken onto his yacht, the Morning Cloud. Savile was actually going out he went down to Jersey, And he was actually taking boys. There was another man involved as well, but Saville himself took boys from the children's home, where he was a guest, or welcome, onto the boat. So he was taking boys out onto Morning Cloud. Now, since Heath was well known, and since the boys were talking young men, the boys were murdered and thrown off the boat. That's why the BBC and the Cabinet Office have been so keen to protect Saville. That's why the Cabinet Office in the 1980s were willing to back Saville to the point of giving him a position of authority at Broadmoor, which is an absolute, you don't put a paedophile in charge of Broadmoor. The Cabinet Secretary at the time, who thankfully is no longer with us, Hunt, was also a paedophile, was in on this, met Saville. He was Catholic, met Saville, as did that very nice man, the late Archbishop of Westminster, Cardinal Basil Hume. Basil was not a paedophile, but knew Hunt and had a shrewd idea. He wasn't stupid, he had a shrewd idea of what had been going on, and I've no doubt was told to keep a lid on it. The Hunt was in on it, so the Cabinet Secretary at the time was in on it, was aware of what was going on, was aware he had a Prime Minister who was involved not just in abusing young boys, but was murdering them as well. It's quite possible that there was a crewman on the yacht who did the actual murder. I'm not saying Ebert Heath necessarily bashed the boys on the boko and tossed them overboard. He may have had somebody do that for him, but he was certainly guilty of murder under English law as an accessory or on a joint enterprise basis. Oh, if someone is inclined in that direction and you can supply them with boys, then you've got a hold on them, or girls. There's nothing worse for a politician than being exposed in the murder and sexual abuse of young people. And if you've got a politician who is abusing and killing young girls and boys, but boys or girls, then you've got a hold on them.
Helicopter flying by as I enter into this coffee shop here in Canoga. Helicopter approaching, helicopter approaching. Been buzzing around for a while, warning buzz, you might say. Black and white LAPD. This is a buzz, this is a buzz. Getting an approach as I'm going to go home. Watch for the direct overhead. Here he comes. Fire. Okay, watch out for intersecting as I drive by. So that security vehicle facing me, driving towards me as I pass the area. Demonic timing. The driver has no idea what's happening. Watch, see if that happens. See? What did I tell you? Right as I pass, he's coming by just like that, and flanking, following. See? Demonic control, friends. To the person seeing that security vehicle and me filming it, that looks just like coincidence and me connecting dots that aren't there. I completely understand that. If you were in my shoes and you saw it happening over and over and over again, even keeping in mind that you could be creating it because you're overconscious of it, like I had the camera out filming and was ready, but it's a very strange phenomena which you can't believe until it happens to you. So that would be my comment about that. And all I can do is show it and do the best I can. And people who have been gang stalking know this demonic mind control over security guards and other people, it's real. And you know, you begin to where you can tell the difference between whether it's insanity or whether it's actually a real phenomena is when you notice that it happens the same way in the same circumstance. Like, I knew that guy was going to come facing right at me as I passed by. I knew that was going to happen. I just sensed it because they do that a lot as I pass by this parking lot here of the Promenade Mall area, which is different from the Topanga Mall. But that is it's just one of those things where it's hard to prove it, because if it happens only a single time, then it's easy to say, well, you know, that's just a coincidence. You know, how can you say that that's, you know, some sort of gang stalking demonic control event? But the person who it's happening to knows it's true, knows it's not just him looking for it and therefore seeing it, because it's true. You can start to see what you're looking for. I've seen that happen. But like I said, the way you can catalog whether it's real or not is when it happens in the same way, that the circumstances are the same, and that's very particular, coming right at you as you pass. Here it comes for a slow flyover. What you call an arrival home buzz. Why is he flying slow directly overhead in this area? Okay. Got that same guys hovering around still, circling back. Appears to be just hovering there.
As noted in a linked article, the same frequencies used by pain-inflicting crowd control weapons, long-range acoustic devices, form the basis for the network that ties together the Internet of Things. While microwave weapons have been used on the public in the past, or even voice of God weapons, used by American forces in Iraq, the potential for using 5G connected devices against the public is a foregone conclusion. As if being passively irradiated isn't enough, anyone considered a threat to the system for any contrived reason by the powers that be could be directly targeted using their own appliances. Many consider this fourth-generation warfare, wherein the general public becomes the enemy of the state. It's been termed silent weapons for quiet wars, with the ultimate goal being depopulation, more so than an Orwellian police state, where our freedoms, liberties, and rights are dissolved until non-existent, which they already are.
Here, okay, looks like a direct flyover or a flyover in this area. Yeah, same one, probably. As I've mentioned before, these guys, for some reason, seem to circle a lot over in this area here. This is Randy Street and Victory. And here's this guy here. I'm sure he's not thinking about me or noticing me on the ground. This one little guy on the ground. I'm sure not. Close in progress, close in progress. Helicopter flying by. Zoom by. Black and white. Not in my usual area.
The Queen herself has been accused of being involved in abducting children. William Coombs, who's a resident of the downtown east side, he's been on my radio show on Co-op Radio a number of times. He described how in October 1964, he remembered it was the fall, and sure enough, I checked, and the Queen and Prince Philip were in Canada between October 5th and 13th of 1964. He said the Queen and Prince Philip showed up at the Kamloops Catholic Residential School where he was a student. And he said they took all the children down to the riverside for a picnic, and 10 of the children left with the Queen and Prince Philip and never came back, 7 boys and 3 girls. He said it was really odd because all the kids were from that area, and they were never seen again their entire life.
Buzz in the rain, buzz in the rain. We got a buzz in the heavy rain, folks. I'm surprised they got that hologram out here in the middle of all this rain. Helicopter approaching. It's 10 p.m. Here he comes. 10 p.m. Okay, it begs the question, why is he flying in like that? Flying in slow, very slowly. Flying in heavy rain. Here he comes. This is weird, friends. Look at how slow he's flying. Look at that, look at how he's turning. As I was writing the Jerusalem rulership in the earth, I got attacked by Satan to let me know that this subject really gets to him. It really bothers him. I'm talking about the changeover in the rulership of the world between Satan and Jerusalem, the first ruler of the never-to-end kingdom of God in the earth. So yeah, this whole thing of being an enemy of Satan's kingdom is really wild. I know a lot of you that message in the or that comment in the comment section. I know a lot of you have been dealing with this. It's just wild what happens when you are an enemy, when you are outside. So there's the inside people and the outside people, and you're inside as long as you're completely ignorant of what's going on, or you are. Or if you do know what's going on, then you're okay with it. You're okay with doing the evil and enacting, all of Satan's protocols. Then you're not going to be a target, and you're okay. You're in. But if you're out, man, it's just wild how everything fights you on a continual basis. It's just so weird. I'm just blown away by. I mean, I kind of was already an enemy before this last 5 years that I've started the reptilian shapeshifter uploads, but I wasn't the kind of enemy that I am now. I mean, really open. I mean, it's like absolutely amazing how stuff comes against you and people come against you. I can feel this dark negative spirit,
And your world is run by these diabolic entities, so diabolic that they made Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, the man who organized the Temple of Set and avowed and open practicing Satanist, the official chaplain of the United States Army. That's why he wrote the Chaplain's Handbook. Don't take my word on it, look it up. Who wrote the Chaplain's Handbook of the United States Army? Michael Aquino. And Michael Aquino wrote the Chaplain's Handbook of the United States Army so that every Jewish rabbi, every Catholic father, every Protestant priest, deacon, all these dudes had to step back and stand down and watch helplessly whenever a satanic priest stepped in to do his work. So they were all given the instructions of when to step back and stand down and shut up whenever a Satanist showed up in the Chaplain's Handbook. That's available on the net, folks. Look it up.
You know, what's interesting is what you learn as the Christian is that no matter what comes against you, no matter what challenges come your way, if you are in line with what God wants, He'll use it all for your good. Everything that comes against you, every challenge, everything that goes wrong, and it's a test, it's an exercise to see if it's going to get you down. So whenever that comes, that thing that pisses you off, that thing that is the loss, the thing that's the pain, you know, use it, but use it with the faith of knowing that God's going to use it to help you, because you are with God. If God is with us, who can be against us? Okay? That's right. So you gotta have God in your thoughts when all this stuff is coming against you and all these wrong things are happening. You're suffering every day, and these various things coming at you. You gotta know that even if they kill you, you're gonna come back, and your seed is gonna be preserved in the earth, but theirs is gonna be cut off from the earth. The seed of the wicked shall never inhabit the earth. God tells us in His true and sure word. What are the chances of a flyover?
I don't know if you know it or not. Some of you do, some of you don't. Former head of the FBI, Los Angeles, California, retired in 1979. And over the years, I started gathering material until about 2 years ago. Up until about 2 years ago, I kept saying there's a loose-knit network operating in this country involving drugs, pedophilia, pornography, prostitution.
The Washington Times reported today that unidentified White House aides in the Carter, Reagan, and Bush administrations now are being investigated for using the services of a call boy ring.
Corruption, et cetera, et cetera. 2 years ago, from my research, I'm convinced it's much more serious than that. It's more than a loose-knit network.
A blockbuster story could be in the making. A former Secret Service agent is threatening to release damaging information on former President Bill Clinton. Dan Bongino says he may release information on Clinton's 26 documented trips on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express. Epstein was convicted in 2008 for soliciting sex from an underage girl and served 13 months in prison. For more on this tonight, we go to the host of America's Lawyer, Mike Papantonio. Mike, Dan Bongino, his testimony or his information coming forward could break the story wide open. What's going on here?
Well, it is. This is a story that is so underreported, Ed. In absolute secret, the U.S. government negotiated a deal that forgave multi-billionaire Jeff Epstein for procuring sex with about 40 children. Some as young as 12 years old were trafficked from other countries to other countries. The deal that allowed Epstein to serve only 13 months in a special private wing of the Palm Beach jail where he was allowed to leave every day for 16 hours. Basically, he only slept there. It carried the possibility for everybody else who wasn't a billionaire, life in prison. Epstein's private pilot, Larry Visocki, in addition to all this, came forward and said that he had flown Bill Clinton around on the same jet at the same time with underage girls that Epstein had on his jet. In fact, Bill Clinton's name shows up on logs that have been forwarded to me 20 times. Bill Clinton's name 20 times during times when some of these girls were on board. The Epstein team also ordered private investigations by the truckload to harass, threaten, and offer money to families in exchange for non-cooperation with the investigation.
Slowly flying over, gray and blue LAPD. Making sure the local poor renters are staying in line. No drug dealing or gang banging going on.
This is the silent Holocaust in action, an undeclared war against the general public in all nations, particularly those of the United Nations, with contingencies in place for the continuity of government, a shadow government overseen by the UN and FEMA, possibly from the infamous Mount Weather in the USA, if it eventually creates a national emergency. Many believe this is what the FEMA camps and unconventional warfare training by the military such as REX-84 and UWEX-16 are for. Eventual civil unrest when it becomes obvious that we do live in a police state with a depopulation agenda. Some of us have been specifically targeted from amongst the public and attacked with microwave and ultrasonic weaponry, also known as psychotronics, for a variety of reasons, from whistleblowing to being labeled a dissident to money and revenge. Sometimes it's even just for experimenting on a target of opportunity by the military mafia complex, a term not often used, let alone understood by most. Citizens are harassed with V2K, also known as voice to skull or voice of God, and long-range microwave weapons until suicide would seem the only option. That seems to be the consensus among those who have claimed to be targeted. Targeting a person is often coupled with the phenomenon known as gang stalking, a term aptly derived from gangsters, which is basically what the military mafia complex is comprised of.
Black helicopter flying directly overhead and slow. Black helicopter flying directly overhead and slowly. There's your black helicopter, friends. That's a definite gang stalk, harassment, psychological warfare. Flew right overhead. Heard it coming.
While President Trump has been very vocal about eradicating sex trafficking rings, he too has some questionable ties with Jeffrey Epstein, while both were friends. And while most of these excerpts and news stories revolve around the USA, the pedophilia pandemic and child trafficking are an international problem of the criminal underworld. As you'll soon see, it's a closely guarded secret of the powers that be in countries such as Belgium, where at least 20 witnesses who might have exposed a pedophile ring catering to politicians and businessmen all met with inexplicable deaths.
It's more than a loose-knit network.
Nihul denies he's ever met Regina Louf, but her story's never changed. Nihul, she said, was one of those who organised the parties and invited the cream of Belgian society, judges, politicians and influential businessmen, in order to compromise them.
It was big business, yeah. And it was very well organized, too. There's a lot of money going on there, and a lot of blackmail also. They had a lot of parties. They filmed it, even.
Regina Louf's story was horrific, but her account of a violent paedophile underworld was by now reinforced by new witnesses, some of whom also named influential people. But before the investigation could get underway, there was a bombshell. Jean-Marc Connerotte, the man who'd arrested Dutroux, who'd saved the imprisoned girls, was sacked from the case. His removal caused a public outcry. Belgians lost faith in their judicial system. They descended on the Palace of Justice and accused the courts of colluding with the killers. 300,000 outraged Belgians marched through Brussels in a demonstration of grief and solidarity. This white march was the largest protest the country had ever seen. Belgians felt that the dismissal of Connerotte was a betrayal of Dutroux's victims, that it signalled the end of any real search for a network. The two rescued girls were overwhelmed.
Direct overhead, your taxes for air stalking harassment for uploading reptilian shapeshifter movies to YouTube and nothing else.
The excerpts I included from the Kinsey Syndrome movie emphasize a large part of how the pseudoscience of psychiatry has manipulated the normalization of pedophilia and the hypersexualization of children. While Alfred Kinsey is blamed for single-handedly influencing the altering of laws protecting women and children, the gay rights movement, and the sexual revolution of the late 20th century, he was not at all working alone.
After publishing his reports, Kinsey traveled the country, giving lectures at universities and testifying before lawmakers. He was received as the leading scientific expert in the world on human sexuality. According to Kinsey, a child molester may have contributed favorably to a child's later sociosexual development.
Kinsey has legitimized the free sex revolution, and he did it through academia. But what's interesting, according to research that's been done on this gentleman, this guy was a pervert himself.
Kinsey's critics claimed that his real motive was not science, but a social agenda to change the morality of America.
What we had uncovered was the determination of these large endowed foundations, this Carnegie Endowment story and the Ford Foundation and the Guggenheim and the Rockefeller Foundation, all working in harmony toward the control of education in the United States.
Dodd's testimony becomes an important issue when considering the direct impact of Kinsey's research on sex education in America. Renee Wormser was the lawyer for the Reese Committee. In his book, Wormser writes that the committee had dug up some significant material about Foundation support of the Kinsey projects. This brought Mr. Hayes into a steaming rage, he says, and he asked to see our entire Kinsey file. It was produced for him, and he angrily declared to Mr. Dodd that we were to go no further with this particular investigation, contending that every member of Congress would be against our doing so. The letter that Dr. Reisman refers to was written by Paul Gephardt on March 11, 1981. In which he attempted to explain where the child sexual data came from. In this letter, he admits that multiple pedophiles were used in collecting information for the Kinsey reports. Dr. Reisman believes the pedophile organization mentioned by Gephardt may have been the nucleus for what would become NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association. While child molestation is a crime in any circumstance, the members of NAMBLA claim that their intentions are out of love for the children they molest. Yet this cover of a NAMBLA bulletin, which they called their back-to-school issue, paints quite a different picture. It shows a frightened boy cornered by two adult men who are about to force him into sexual contact, and is more consistent with the information found in the Kinsey reports, that children are in fact being raped and tormented by the pedophiles who prey upon them.
Is it true that a vast majority of homosexual men admit to having engaged in pedophilia at some point?
Oh, yeah, surely. There's a vast majority of homosexual males are on record within the homosexual literature itself. Even the Advocate admitted to at minimum 21%, and we had up to 70-some% by other homosexual publications and researchers. And one of them, one of the research publications came out of the Kinsey Institute.
We remind the audience that the group NAMBLA, who are the focus of this film, claim to take their inspiration directly from Alfred Kinsey. And while many in the gay community would deny that homosexuality is linked to pedophilia, it is worth noting that the very founder of the gay rights revolution, Harry Hay, consistently advocated the inclusion of NAMBLA in gay pride parades. In fact, here is a photo of Hay marching in a parade with the words, "NAMBLA walks with me," written on his back. Needless to say, Hay had been persuaded by his chief influence, Alfred Kinsey.
I remember him using this in his campaign against me, saying Barack Obama supports teaching sex education to kindergartners, and which I didn't know what to tell him. But it's the right thing to do. To provide age-appropriate sex education, science-based sex education, science-based sex education in the schools. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Hey, you say. Hey, you say. Hey, you say. Hey, you say.
Remember that this science-based sex education begins with the so-called scientific data gathered by Kinsey's pedophiles and recorded by him in his sex reports. Something that Kinsey's followers continue to insist is relevant in teaching our children today.
These specific findings about these children are totally irrelevant to modern sex education.
Consider again this image of a teacher showing what appears to be 6- and 7-year-old girls how to use a condom. When you consider that the PhDs who have designed these programs openly support the pedophile philosophy, we can only wonder, is sex education really intended to protect America's children, or to condition them for seduction at the hands of a child molester. Why are America's children disappearing? For those who study the influence of Alfred Kinsey, the answer becomes more than clear.
The national toll per year is in the thousands every year. Kids die violently because of this.
The kind of individuals involved are down the line, almost in every instance, in the cases I've investigated, men who are very powerful, usually very wealthy, and usually administrate control over a large number of people.
A 16-year-old boy came to us telling how he'd started as a prostitute at age 12 and now is employed by a large Houston corporation. The corporation pays him from a well-covered slush fund.
I'm working right now, like just, with the corporation. And
what's that? How's that work?
well, when their executives or their business people are in town, they're sent to our apartment and we entertain them while they're here.
Okay, what's that entertainment usually involve? What do they usually demand, or what do they want?
Well, it's all kinds of sex and perversions. There's no two alike. I've decided that.
Subsequent to the making of this interview, this boy's mutilated body was found.
It's closely attached to the major financial, commercial, industrial, educational institutions of our society. It's run by the same people who run those. It's frequented by the same people who occupy management positions in those. It's not the mafia. It's an adjunct of clean business. It's serving the most respectable people we have in our society, the people who are the elite.
And one of the primary sources of loosh, which is emotional energy that they feed on, loosh being emotional energy that provides food for this, whatever it is, reptilians or whatever, that within the human experience, the finest and the most pure form of loosh came from pre-adolescent children. In satanic rituals, that pre-adolescent children are used primarily in certain satanic rituals because of they give off the most pure form of emotional terror that you can imagine. From our point of view, it's perverse. From their point of view, it's filet mignon. This is the best form of food that we can get, and it's like
saying that to me. This is how we eat.
Right. This is
how we eat.
It's how they
It's
eat.
like that makes it all okay.
But children are a primary source of food.
The Kinsey Institute continues to lead the way in sex education and continues to be funded by the American taxpayer.
Helicopter approaching, coming in hot. Los Angeles Police Department vehicle being used to gang stalk, harass an innocent man. We're uploading reptilian shapeshifter movies to YouTube. In America, where you are actually not free to disclose the fact that there are non-humans ruling our society. That's right, folks, there's one of those black helicopters.
And as he was talking to me, it appeared like the ambulance literally exploded in flames. I thought it had actually blown up. It filled with smoke, and immediately I was moving through that smoke and seeing fire and smoke and people inside of this burning place screaming and crying. They were burning, but they weren't burning up. They weren't being consumed. And then the sensation of moving downward into this. But the most terrible part of it, I began to recognize many of the people that I was seeing in these flames, as if a close-up lens on a camera was bringing their faces close to me. I could see their features and see the agony and the pain and the frustration. And a number of them began to call my name and said, "Ronnie, don't come to this place. There's no way out. There's no escape. If you come here, there's no way out." And I looked into the faces of one that had died in a robbery attempt, who had been shot to death and bled to death on the sidewalk. And I looked in the face of 2 others that had died drunk in an automobile accident. And I looked into the face of others that had died of drug overdoses that we had partied together, and the agony and the pain. But I believe the most painful part of it was the loneliness. And the depression was so heavy that there was no hope, there was no escape, there was no way out of this place.
And when I blacked out, I immediately went into another, what I believe to be another dimension. I immediately, has anybody ever seen the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore? And how the shadows came around the bad guy and he like took him down? I mean, that's exactly what happened to me. Exactly. And it was like 4 shadows. Now, all the while, she's looking into my eyes, and my eyes are open, but they're not blinking. I researched to be clinically dead means that your heart stops beating and you stop breathing. And that happened to me. I believe I had cardiac arrest at that moment. Of course, there's no doctors that can attest to that, but I know what I believe in my heart. I know what, I mean, you know, your body will tell you what's going on. And so I see these 4 shadows, and they come and get me, and they take me down into this, it's like a tunnel, it's like a shaft. And the walls are like clay, but they're like stone as well. And I remember it was a descent. It was just like being in an airplane and you feel the gravity, you feel yourself going down. It was exactly the same. And with the, you know how the force you feel when you're on a plane? That's how it felt when I was going down. And with their fingers, these demons had power over me. Just with their fingers. They didn't even put their hands on me. They just like moved a finger and they had control over my spirit, man. And as I'm going down this tunnel, I mean, I know what's going on. I've heard people testify and say they didn't know what was going on. They were confused. But you see, I had known the Word of God. I have had an experience. I know the Word. I knew what the Scriptures said about heaven and hell. So I was not exempt. I was not confused. I knew what was going on. And so as I'm going down this tunnel, I'm telling you guys, great horror filled my being. And I remember it was like I had chains on me, and I was put on display for the enemy. It's like I was being made fun of, getting ready to be made a mockery of. I didn't see the chains, but I felt them. And it was something that had my hands bound to the wall. And in that moment, I remember feeling such great despair and hopelessness. I miss God. There is no God in hell. There is no God in this place, this chamber. There was no evidence of love. There was no love anywhere. There was no hope. No hope. Just to think that you can get a moment of rest in the earth. You don't even understand how incredible that is, that you have an inclination of hope. Because you see, I lived as a drug addict. I thought there was no hope. I thought I was living in hell. But just being separated from God in this dark, dark place, that alone, I can't, it's like I just know something. I understand eternity. I do. I really do. It's seated in my heart because of this experience. I know what it's going to feel like. I know how someone is going to feel when they go to hell. I understand it. I know it. I felt this presence come up to me while I'm in this place. And it was the presence of sin. Now listen to this. In this moment on the wall, there was something breathing on me. And I have never felt so filthy in all my life. The smell. There's no way I could describe to you the smell. The filth. Every AIDS, sin, cancer, perversion, child pornography, every evil thing that you could imagine in your mind that man has imagined was alive and it was breathing on me. It had its being. It was alive in hell, was ready to consume me. Imagine your friends being in this place, your loved ones, the people that you love with all of your heart, yourself. Imagine those that are dear to you.
If you're watching this, it's not too late. Say this prayer now. Father in heaven, save my soul by the work of your Son Jesus on the cross, and show me your pure words in the authorized King James Bible.